Final hour OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Best bets later in the hour. Jay Triano later in the hour. Luke Willson coming up here in a few moments on the pressure the Bills are facing, the Dolphins are facing, some Dalvin Cook news, a number of things to get into with Luke, so we'll do that in a few moments. We'll move the picks for Week 18 to tomorrow, and then the playoffs kicking off next week. But we've been talking about the Leafs today, a lot about the William Nylander stuff. It's moving towards a contract resolution. We believe the extension is going to happen. Everyone's kind of reporting that that's going to be the case, and kind of bracing for impact in terms of the term, the dollar amount, all that kind of stuff. But I thought he was good again last night, Willie. I did. I thought the Leafs, dominated Anaheim. They end up winning in overtime, and it ends with Matthews getting his 30th goal of the season in 35 games. He's on pace for 68 goals. Like, for me, if he's healthy, this is how wild it is. Like, 60 feels like a lock. 60 feels like a lock. I don't think he'll hit 70 because 70, I just can't get my head there. I know he's, on pace for 68, but you have to remain on such a heater when games get tighter. Defensive play generally, hypes up down the stretch. The ice shrinks a little bit. It's a long season, nicks and bruises, possible load management down the stretch. Like, there's a number of things that might go against him for chasing 70. But if he can get to 60 and be a 2-time 60 goal scorer, that is just like uncharted territory for the modern game. Ovechkin, I don't believe, has done it. I don't think Stamkos has done it. It's like the last time it happened, I want to say, was like Pavel Bure or something in the 90s.
Gets him right back into the hard conversation again, too. You can't not talk about him, McDavid, Kucherov.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you start ripping home goals like that, you automatically put yourself in that conversation.
You have to. You have to. If this guy ends up with 65 goals or something, he may not win it, but he will be nominated.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're a lock to be if you had 60 goals, you're getting nominated.
For sure.
That's right. And McDavid looks like he's going to tee off and have 140 points or some nonsense, and that'll be tough to compete against. But 60 puts you right back in there. And there's going to be McDavid and McKinnon and Kucherov, and you're just putting your name in the hat. You're saying, I'm going to be here, fellas. I'll be there for the discussion.
Yeah, and the wild thing is, Willie, Nylander's still leading the team in points.
Yeah.
So, Matthews is on pace for 68 goals and 109 points or whatever, and Willie's projected to have more points.
Yeah.
And score, 45 or something, maybe 50 goals?
He's 43 goal pace, 116 point pace, which is 30 more than what he had, 87 last year.
If he recaptures that magic he had at the beginning of the season, he could throw his name in the ring, too, as being a guy that's mentioned. If you're the guy that gets it done in spectacular fashion every night, like the guys that we just mentioned do, you put your name in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how difficult it is to be one of those guys.
Well, I think
because they do it every night.
Right. And even the way Matthews has been playing the last month, I would say. We did that panel game. It was Seattle, November 30th. We were talking a lot leading into that game that he was blending into games. He was he was slumping a little bit statistically. He wasn't playing great. Since that night, effectively, or since they turned into December, this guy has been playing, I think, the best hockey he's ever played. Just dominating. Because it's not only the goals and the points, it's every time he's on the ice, this guy is leaning on opponents. It has got to be terrifying seeing him come over the boards.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's in incredible shape. He's healthy. Yeah. He's back with Marner. That's a bit. I've loved the aggression of Nyes, too. I thought he played really well last night.
I love what Nyes is doing out there. And a guy that Nyes can be, I always think about different comparisons. If Nyes ever wants to look at a guy to kind of model his game after, just go get some clips and watch a bunch of Chris Kreider clips that the way he plays for the New York Rangers. He's kind of a bigger dude. He's aggressive in the corners. He's a great skater, gets open a lot. Nyes can be a Kreider, and that's a great career, and that's a great position for him to be in. Everyone would love playing with Chris Kreider.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy that goes and gets the puck. He can score. He can make plays. I love what Nyes is doing out there. Gets his nose dirty.
He's been aggressive.
People in the head a little bit.
He's been aggressive.
I love what he's bringing to the table.
Yeah.
The growth from when he got called up last year to what he looks like right now, it's fantastic. think about 2 years from now what he's going to be. He's going to be a dangerous weapon out there. I love where he is at right now.
I agree with you. I mean, I think they've got something here in the top 6. Like with Bertuzzi doing what he's doing on the wing, Nye doing what he's doing on the wing. Like they've found their top 6. That's going to be it. They may flip some things around from time to time, clearly.
Yeah. Even some of the nerds are finally waking up when they were like, why did they get Tyler Bertuzzi? He's got long hair and he never toe drags and does it. Hey, don't worry, he'll be fine.
Yeah, he's been fine. But, I mean, Matthews is chugging. And, again, it says something about the greatness of McDavid, that as great as Matthews has been, it's still McDavid at number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's still – like, you can't even open the door yet on, like, what is this guy doing in Edmonton? What is he about? How does he play? Yet Matthews has got a heart. Again, you talk about legacy. If you can chase down a second year of 60+, like, you're talking just knocking off so many different legacy pieces.
Oh, yeah.
The final one obviously has to be the playoffs. I mean, that goes without saying. If it's right there on a platter for him. Like, if they have playoff success, if they win a cup, he gets a Conn Smythe.
Yeah.
Like, it's over. Every generation has their own favorite players, Dougie and Wendell and Sittler and Lanny and Keon. The guy, like, if he gets cup success or Conn Smythe.
Okay.
What?
Let's how about score a goal beyond the first round?
Yes.
Yet to do that.
But that's what I'm saying is him just doing that will not surpass a lot, like on my list, surpass what Gilmore represented in the early 90s or Keon and all that kind of, although I wasn't around when he was playing. I'm saying if he does that, like, for me, I don't think it's, like for instance with McDavid, if McDavid wins cups, it's still going to be, well, Gretzky, Sid, well, Lemieux. Like, Matthews isn't dealing with the same comparisons here because of the cup droughts for so long.
Oh, you're right.
What about where Owen Wilson stands?
Yeah, listen, it's last week was one of the worst picks of the season. Miami against Baltimore. One of the truly worst picks of the season. Right there on a platter for Team Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
Doogie handed them the layup of the season. They started overthinking it. They started getting nervous because what they've realized, Dave, is the playoffs are around the corner. And it's
If you smell what the dog is cooking.
Is that an inaccurate assessment? Luke Willson joining us. What's happening?
What you gotta say, Hayes? You're not even going to be within single digits.
I'm going to say that by Partsy and I told you, man, we're moneyballing this. Jonah Hill, Brad Pitt, it's all about the process. The wins and losses are irrelevant to us. We don't even watch the games. We just look at the numbers. We look at the stats. We apply some gut instinct.
You flip the coin, and the coin came up 50%. That's what you do. You got Team Owen Wilson. We came down. Crunch time happened. We won 9 straight? Was that it? Ridiculous.
No, because you guys lost both your games last week. So, yes, there was a turn of events.
I'm talking about the week before we already clinched.
Yeah.
Dog, this guy is the biggest fraud I've ever had to deal with.
And
I will say one thing. Do not discredit that Zoom call we had with Rod Smith before we had to put in those picks to go on that heater, because that guy set us straight and we went on a heater, pal. That deserves the thumbs
No
up.
question. Shout out Rod. I mean, it's the greatest gambling trio in the history of TSN.
That's right.
Well, I saw Rod today too, man. He's beaming. Like, he looks like he's got some pep in his step, man. It's tough to have that conversation. I had a little FaceTime with Rod earlier. He's a very happy man. He loves Regi. He's not a big fan of TG. He was talking about the acronym earlier. I said, Rod, it's all good, man. Buckle up. You guys got your banner, and a lot of people are excited about the regular season. As I've been saying for weeks, we are planning championship parades, Hayes and Bro. That's what we intend on doing, right, Dave? Did the Raptors win, top spot in the East?
No.
They won no, but does anyone care? I don't even remember how many wins they had that season. But they have 53, 52.
So,
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Just out of curiosity here, did Team Hayes and Bot make the playoffs? Because I thought, to make the playoffs, you have to have a certain record, which clearly you don't have.
No, we had already punched our ticket going into week 17. That's why load management, we took our foot off the gas. There was a lot of different, there were rhymes and reasons for why we approached the way we approached week 17. But congratulations. You guys had a great run. You had a great season. Rod's a legend. Congratulations to Rod Smith in particular. It's not going to be easy come playoff time, but we need to figure out which teams are going to get there And I love that the Bills and Dolphins are flexed on Sunday night, and the fact that the Bills are going to know that, like, if Jacksonville wins and Pittsburgh wins during the day, this is the craziest conundrum and, like, fork in the road I can recall in NFL history, Luke, where the Bills can either win and get the second seed in home field in the AFC or lose and they're out. Like, how do you even explain us getting to this point? And yet, at the same time, does it make sense because the Bills have been Jekyll and Hyde the whole year anyway?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, you look at some of the games, and it's not just the Bills, it's every team, but you don't realize, and I know we've talked about this before, how much losing one game means in the NFL. And this is a perfect example. I mean, I don't think this will happen, but let's say Buffalo wins this game and Cleveland ends up somehow beating Baltimore in the second round. Again, a lot of things have to happen. I'm just putting a hypothetical out there. There's a chance that Buffalo wins this game and they have home field right until the Super Bowl. If they have the 2 seed, again, Baltimore need to slip up. But my point is, you look at these games that happen midway through the year, and it's every team. And that one loss, that jams you up. You're like, man, how wild is this? And you look at Miami, same thing. Team Owen Wilson lost in this game, but we all remember a couple weeks back when they blew it against Tennessee.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, same thing goes for them. They're either the 2 seed or is it, I guess they'd be the 5 anyway. Or the 6. Yes, but my point is that's a big ordeal from being the 2 seed and having at least 2 home playoff games, potentially 3, versus none. And I do worry for Buffalo, Hayes. I feel like I'm on an island this week. All of a sudden, everybody in the Toronto area thinks that Buffalo is the greatest team in the NFL. Well, and I'm a little nervous for them Sunday night.
Let me ask you, and these guys put me in my place when I brought up this idea, but if it fizzles for Buffalo and ends an ugly way, regardless of how it ends, do you think their coach is safe?
I do, but I don't know if I personally think that he's got whatever it is to take them the distance. I think he's safe because the defense has been ravaged by injuries and they're still playing at a decently high level. And I believe that that'll be enough to, hey, bring this guy back for a year. But that being said, it wouldn't shock me, O-Dog, because let's say they lose this game and it's set up to, Pittsburgh's got to beat Ravens team without Lamar. The Jags got to beat Tennessee, and you need Houston and Indy not to tie, which obviously seems pretty likely. If Buffalo misses the playoffs, I could also see how they'd move on from McDermott, because this is a team that I think everybody thought would be, where the Ravens are right now at one point. And I do give McDermott a bit of a pass because, again, especially defensively, they've been, really hit hard by the injury bug. But offensively, this team has regressed. And anyone who thinks they haven't has no idea what they're talking about.
Well, and he's a defensively minded coach as well. I mean, that's you look at the way the NBA's trend or the NFL is trending. The offensive coaches, the offensively astute coaches are generally getting the job done. And especially if you pair them with a superstar quarterback, like that seems to be a pretty obvious decision. But I don't think he's going to go regardless. I think they could get blown out 50-0 on Sunday and he's coming back because of the nature of the market, what he's done for the team, what they were before he got there. There's a number of different reasons.
Hey, they get blown out 50-0, he ain't coming back. I'll tell you that for free. If they're in a crunch time game and miss the playoffs and get smoked, they got to move on.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. I mean, Dave, you grew up not far from Buffalo.
Right.
Like, I'm saying what it speaks to me in the Pagulas. I don't know how they operate down there. It hasn't been great recently with the hockey team. I think they look at McDermott and say, we're terrified of what's coming next because before this guy showed up, we were nothing.
Right.
They were nothing. For 19 years, they were nothing effectively. And then McDermott got them to the promised land, which in Buffalo was simply being a playoff team or a competitive team. Like 5 years ago, you went to a Bills fan and said, win and you're in on week 18. How do you feel about it? They'd say, we'll start a parade even if they lose.
What if you could sniff around Billy Belichick, though, or maybe Harbaugh in Michigan?
Ooh, Harbaugh's an interesting decision. But
apparently Harbaugh's dying for that Chargers gig, dying for it. Who knows?
Or
I'd be sniffing around that guy.
Vegas Raiders may make a run, O-Dog. The Vegas Raiders are hot on that potentially. Luke, that's an interesting one. Luke, I was curious about your feelings about all these guys that will not play. You know, we're not going to see Mahomes. We're not going to see Lamar. We're not going to see Christian McCaffrey. There's a long list of marquee players whose teams do not need them and they will not play. Wasn't always this way in the NFL. I can remember, you know, a Brady New England Patriots team in the last week of the season. He might play the first half and then take the second half off, but it felt like they wanted to stay sharp to some degree while obviously minimizing injury risk. Are you good with just sitting out completely to absolutely eliminate injury risk, or where do you stand on that?
So to me, the strangest one, and I know this is going to be a bit weird here, is actually Lamar. And why I say that is because they have the bye. I don't know if I would like to be out for 2 straight weeks. So I really thought that they'd have Lamar stroll out there, prep, you know, like it's a regular game week, play him in the first quarter. Everything's a 3-step, quick game drop, hand the ball off a few times. Just stay in kind of the game mode because you're getting the next week off anyways. So under no I'm telling Lamar, you're not allowed to scramble. We're taking no quarterback runs. Like everything, again, ball's out of your hand. Don't care what your stats are. Just so you're still in that rhythm. The guys like CMC or Mahomes, I get that because CMC is similar to the Lamar situation, but Mahomes is playing next week. So it's really an abbreviated bye week. I probably, again, they can't move up or down. I would definitely bench Mahomes. Game means nothing. Where I get a little weird, again, is the guys, and CMC would be another one, where it's, do you really want to give these guys a full 2 weeks off? You know, is there a chance they're a little sluggish? Again, just a little bit out of rhythm. And in that second round of the playoffs, you're going to be playing some great teams. That's just the reality of the situation. I understand you're the 1 seed, but somebody's coming to town that's going to be a very, very good and talented football team. So I am on the side of rest guys, keep them super healthy. But on the flip side of this, if you have the 1 seed, I could totally see why, even though they're not, maybe have Lamar play 2 drives. Again, you're calling this game, so it's wildly safe. CMC, maybe you just have him in there as somewhat of a decoy. We get him 1 or 2 runs. You know, again, keep the body fresh, active. That's kind of where I stand on it. I think that 2 weeks is a lot of time off.
Yeah, and the thing with Lamar is, like, the MVP discussion was so, like, wild all season. Like, such a variety of frontrunners and variety of opinions. Was it Purdy? Was it Dak? Could it be Jalen Hurts? Would it be CMC if Tyreek Hill is healthy? And it's like in 2 weeks it just ended, where Lamar doesn't even have to play, and I feel like it's done. Like, I feel like he may win this unanimously, which is kind of wild considering where we were like 3 weeks ago.
I agree with that, Hayes. And then the more I thought about it, it's weird how no one really brought him up, especially because the argument with Purdy was that he had all these weapons around him. Well, you flip to Lamar, and it's like their starting running back, who was supposed to be their horse, J.K. Dobbins, hurt early in the year. Their most consistent receiver is their tight end, Mark Andrews, missed a bulk of time, especially recently. And the next running back, who was really starting to kind of explode on the scene, Keaton Mitchell, also was lost down crunch time. So you definitely don't have that argument with Lamar. And his numbers, I think, speak for themselves right now. I've sang Brock Purdy's praises. I think it's unfortunate that he had such a brutal game against Lamar. 4 picks, that whole ordeal. Shout out him for doing that, though, because that was another win for Team Owen Wilson. Not going to bring that up. But anyways, I think Lamar's unanimous. You said it. I think that with everything they've gone through, Luke, the teams they've beat.
Yeah.
They're all the guys from ESPN saying over, MVP race over during that game, and it's like, wow, that was a quick transition into that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like for the longest time, it was like it was Jalen Hurts, and then it was Dak, and then maybe it's McCaffrey or Tyreek, and then Mahomes is still in it. And
C.J. Stroud got mentioned.
C.J. Stroud was getting it, and even remember it was like, hey, if the Bills get back in it, Josh Allen's your guy, and then it's like. They crush San Fran, they crush Miami, it's over. Lamar's the guy. And I can't dispute Lamar, because everything you just said is a great point, Luke, including they got a really young receiver core out there. Like Zay Flowers is basically the number 1 guy. He's got under 1,000 yards
but
receiving.
Hayes, it brings up a different question. How does a guy win an MVP? And earlier last summer, he was available to every team in the league, and a bunch of people said no thanks on that. Oof. How does that happen?
Good question.
How does that happen?
No,
his agent said, or the team said, try to find a trade. do whatever you got to do. And there was no takers. And he goes and wins an MVP.
Well, and he already had one in the bank. Like the thing with Lamar, the questioning around Lamar was always, can he stay healthy? Right. Can he win the big games? At some point, the wheel's going to fall off. But you look at him like from a strictly win percentage standpoint, when he's in the game, he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, but if I'm an owner, I go to my executives and say, you wanted to pass on that? You had no interest in that?
Right.
I don't know.
It's a good, I think the belief was collusion.
It's insanity. It's insanity.
It's crazy.
That's exactly what it is.
And O-Dog, we've talked about this before, and it sounds like hockey has some similarities. But, everybody thinks and they assume that these front office guys in the NFL are these football savants. And
it's ridiculous.
It was funny, and I tell people this story all the time, where when I was in college and we'd be practicing, especially my senior year, we had another tight end drafted. So there was constantly NFL scouts coming to our practice. And they'd sit and watch the tight end drills. Again, Vance McDonald, he's retired. Everyone kind of had a big stint with the Steelers, drafted by the 49ers. So me and Vance would be sitting there. And I remember being, 21 years old, 22, being like, man, NFL scouts showing up. Like, this is great. By the time I was 25, every time I saw an NFL scout, I'd be like, look at this moron. This guy knows nothing about football. And that's just kind of how it is. Like, and I don't mean to be rude, but I'm sure there are good scouts. But the vast majority of NFL scouts that I know have just basically become yes men and failed their way up into these roles. And that's the NFL. And I know we've had this conversation before, but you ask, like, and it's a perfect example, O-Dog. Like, how does Lamar Jackson get passed on by everyone? And we've seen the quarterback play this year, which I'd say is at an all-time low. And now this guy strolls out there with a ton of injuries on his team, a new offensive coordinator. Again, they're down to their third, fourth running backs, and he's a unanimous MVP, and they're the best team in the NFL at the moment.
Well, yeah, I'm telling you, it's going to happen again with this draft because remember when Lamar got drafted, there were 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. Baltimore traded in to get him at 32, I believe it was, maybe 31. And yet you look at his college stats, they are absurd what he was doing in college. Yeah. Like, absolutely insane. I think he went to Louisville. Like,
everyone
insane.
thought he was just this runner freak that was just couldn't process, couldn't throw.
It's going to happen again this year because there's 5 or 6 names that people are talking about, and there'll be a guy that drops because it won't translate or he doesn't do this, doesn't do that. Someone will sneak in the end of the first round, pick him up, and the guy will be a stud. Like, that's exactly what happens. History will repeat itself. But anyway, all right, we got the picks tomorrow. Our last tune-up before the playoffs. It's basically an exhibition weekend for us.
Can we just go over this? What is the playoffs? I thought this was the big championship.
Dude, that's what
all
these
year,
guys do.
Hayes, all we heard.
They're going to drag this thing out. And
yes.
Like next year is going to be a continuation with these bozos.
No,
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
It's a reset. You guys, the regular season was very impressive. You guys had a great run. We had a great run, too. We punched our ticket. That's all we were intending on doing, was making the playoffs.
What did you punch your ticket to? There's only 2 teams. It's us versus you.
Yeah.
Dummy.
That's right. But we're above 500 on the season, making picks. I mean, you extrapolate
You are, Hayes. Al's brother is not. Al's brother is not above 500. I told you when you signed him up. I said, don't bring him in here.
I know.
Al's brother's taking some heat in the public. He is taking some heat with some of his comments and some of his selections.
He's my Larry Murphy, man. There's a lot of people turning on.
I get cornered in Costco about Al's brother's selections and comments more than anything.
I'm telling you. Hey, you go down. I'm a St. Catharines guy. He's a Niagara guy. He goes down to the St. Catharines card show on the weekend.
Right.
He's got fans lining up, fellas. He's got a following. So don't underestimate.
Well, he should. I'll record some of the comments I hear regarding his football stuff.
Yeah,
and that's probably different than what he hears at the card show.
Yeah, he is. Listen, you get him in a card show or on a cruise, he is the most popular person on earth.
Yes,
it's picking winners on this show. Different story, but he's my partsy and I'm a foxhole guy.
Right,
and I love him, and we're gonna really bring it together come playoff time. So,
out of curiosity, how does the playoffs work, and what does the 1 seed get?
Well, you've already been greasing the wheel. I'm sure you and Doogie will figure that out, right?
I think
secretly.
it's a +5 start minimum.
No, there's no +5. It's
you've got to give. You've got to give us an advantage.
We'll give you an advantage on which games you maybe want to pick. Like Wild Card Weekend, there's 6 games. You can pick the 3 you want to pick.
We get a bunch of stuff. Sure. I'll just say that.
But in the end, it's starting 0-0. Like the playoffs, we're talking about a parade. That if you guys are actual winners, you're embracing the fact that we're back at the starting line. I love the fact that you're nervous.
I have to interrupt you. Partsy, next week, me, you, and Rod, we're going to call it a champions lunch. I'm going to arrange it.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
All right, we'll catch you tomorrow. More picks. Al's brother will be back. There's Luke Willson. Thanks, buddy. There he is.
Cheers.
Pro athlete salute on the way out. Yeah, Al's brother will be in here tomorrow. Picking winners, undoubtedly, right?
Hey, man.
Tremendous information. You're right. Down in St. Catharines, the card depots, that guy is a legend.
He brings them in.
He does. He's got so many cards.
Yeah.
Like, he'll post on Twitter, Instagram. I see it. He's like, come on down. And people are like, I'm on my way.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
Are those someone else's cards or his?
No, Al's brother's a connoisseur, man.
Yeah.
He's, like some people collect wine. There's a lot of different collections.
Sure.
Al's brother collects cards.
That's right.
And I
he's
guess
happy to sell you some.
Yeah, he'll, at a price.
Yeah.
He never gets fleeced. Never. All right. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Jay Triano coming up. Raptors in Sacramento tomorrow night. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right. Our Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Raptors with a big win last night in Memphis. They continue their road trip heading into Sacramento. Jay Triano's a part of the staff out there. Sacramento's been a real good team the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
And, they got Sabonis, who's putting a monster number. He had a 20 and
you're
20
a
the other night.
Sacramento guy now.
I'm a big Sacramento guy. I've always been a big fan. Yeah, so Sabonis has been a stud. De'Aaron Fox is a stud.
Hey,
They've been a dumpster fire for 15 years, and now you're on board.
No, I wouldn't say I'm on board. I'm
up.
I'm not. Listen, I was very, very clear about what they represented for a long time. Basically,
didn't they take G State to the wire a couple years ago?
Yeah, last year went to 7. Last year went to 7. And
First round.
First round. But yeah, they had the Weber and Bibby years, and Vlade was there, and
they were right there with the Lakers.
Yeah,
with that great rivalry, and
until Shaq called them the Sacramento Queens.
That didn't help. And then they went dark for a long time, where they just made a lot of bad picks, and they lost a lot of games, and then Mike Brown shows up, and they got De'Aaron Fox. They traded Halliburton for Sabonis, which was a wild trade. And when you look at what Halliburton's doing, but Sabonis is a stud as a big.
Oh yeah,
he is a stud.
Can't argue with that.
And the Kings are 20-13. So if you're the Raptors, you're going in there. You've won a couple games in a row. You're feeling pretty good about yourselves, considering the trade. Quickly's look good. R.J. Barrett's look good, but it'll be a test.
What happens next, Feschuk? Is Siakam on board? Is he next to exit stage left, or how does that go down?
If I had to handicap it, O-Dog, knowing Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster and the way they've operated, I still think the most likely scenario is they re-sign the guy. I really do. And that may make him easier to trade in the law run. But, they've been trying to trade him an awfully long time and haven't come up with anything that makes sense. So...
what do you mean nothing that makes sense? What you can get is what you can get. If you've canvassed enough, there's options, and there's not going to be any more after what's available right now for them.
Well, that's the whole thing. Do you love them and think you can win with them, or is it no one's going to give us what we want, so we're going to keep them? It might be some.
To me, that would make sense not to keep them, though, Hayes.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's somewhat of a defeatist attitude, but it can be somewhere in the middle. It's not that they don't like Pascal. Obviously, they do. They love him. He's a champion with this team.
Well, they've probably loved him so much that they think he's worth a lot more than everybody else.
That could possibly be the case. But Raptors, again, have won 2 in a row. They're in Sacramento tomorrow night. The Kings, 20-13 on the season. Here's a guy we're all very familiar with, part of the staff out there in Sacramento. Here's Jay Triano. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing very well. Very well. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. Obviously, you got a history with the Raptors. I don't know if you're tracking them on a daily basis, but how cool are these games when you get a chance to see them, I guess, twice a year?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's still people that are in the organization that were there when I was there, so you always run into somebody that you know, and obviously I spent, 10 years there as part of the organization, so always have an affinity to the Raptors, and I guess see them as much being on the West Coast. Just the 2 games I was in Charlotte, we would see them here. So it's always a very for me.
Okay, we got to throw you on hold, Jay. Your line's really cracking. That's Sacramento getting back at me.
Yeah,
that's what that is.
That's
Sacramento,
right.
They know what's up. They know. How I feel about Sacramento at times in the past. So
that's somebody outside of his office screwing with a wire or something. Loser Hayes is on the other
We're gonna
end
get
of
that
this
guy.
coast.
Yeah,
that sounded like an old school landline.
that's what I was gonna say. That had landline cracking.
Yeah,
because like a landline that cracks is different than a cell phone that drops.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I would know because I am obsessed with good connection.
Phone quality.
Yes, with phone quality. That is a high priority for me. So we'll see if we can get Jay back. But he was saying, like, even when he was with the team, like, there's still people within the organization, And there has been a fair amount of turnover, but
yeah. No, it's hey, the NBA is a small community, right? Like, it's a very small world.
Once you're in there, you're in there.
And Jay's been in there a long time now, going back to his days, his brief stint as head coach of the Raptors. And, yeah, it's a fraternity, and he's a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see if we can get Jay back on. Again, I don't know. We'll see. Raptors Kings tomorrow night. See the report was it Shams reporting that the head coach in LA, the Lakers now? It's like maybe he's maybe on the outs and
knives are out for Darvin Ham.
Yeah, and everyone like immediately started connecting LeBron to that, but I think it's more likely it's Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Because he's always the issue.
LeBron can't be too far from the blade if knives are out.
It is something about LeBron.
How could AD? You think AD actually went to someone and said, "Get this coach out of here"?
I wouldn't put it past
the guy
him.
That's nicknamed Street Clothes that sits on a chair in his street clothes most nights.
Yeah. I think that's the problem. Even if it wasn't, listen, they paid him the biggest contract in NBA history when he signed it. So he has an immense amount of power in LA. They're committed to him. He won a title. It was a bubble title, but he did. The banner's up.
And there's been some nights this year you see the highlights and the score, and he's unbelievable.
Yes.
But it just does not happen a lot.
When he wants to play, he can be one of the 5 most dominant players in the NBA.
Exactly.
When he decides he wants to play, he just chooses not to far too often. Basically the definition of a coach killer. So whether he said it outright behind the scenes or not, his actions would indicate, what's up with Anthony Davis? We'll blame the coach. You're right, though, the power of LeBron. Like, nothing's going to happen without LeBron signing off on it.
Hard to imagine. Look, there's been a lot of talk in the NBA in the last couple of weeks about how agencies kind of are the shadow government of the NBA, right? And, of course, with the Knicks trade and the Raptors OG being a CAA client, he goes to a team run by a former CAA agent and has a lot of CAA clients. The Lakers are a clutch sports franchise.
Yes.
Because LeBron, obviously, his agent, Rich Paul, also represents Antonio Davis. And so that's the situation there. I would not – maybe it's not LeBron. Maybe it's not AD. Maybe it's a clutch sports leak to Shams Charania.
Someone's not happy because, that's the in-season tournament champs.
Yeah.
They get the banner up at crypto.com. All right, we're going to try Jay Triano here again. Jay Triano joining us again from the Sacramento Kings. Can you hear us, Jay?
I can hear you guys fine, yes.
Yep, all good. So thank you for doing this again. We were asking about your connection with the Raps and when they roll through town. And meanwhile, you guys are in a good position. Like, you guys are 20-13 for Raptor fans that don't get a chance to stay up late at night. What are the Raptors going to be dealing with tomorrow night with your Kings?
Well, it's funny because a year ago I think we had a record that was worse, but we felt like we were playing better. I think we've got 2 All-Stars, 2 guys that were All-Stars last year in De'Aaron Fox and Domas Sabonis. I don't think we're really shooting the ball as well as we did a year ago when we had arguably the best offense in the NBA. But we play fast. We play exciting basketball. Mike Brown has just changed the whole culture since he got here. We had the longest drought of an NBA team making the playoffs, and we broke that last year. So it's been fun. But again, now the expectations are a little bit higher this year after having a good year last year. And I think we're a fun team to watch. I have a lot of fun coaching these guys. They're very receptive to everything, and we just go out and we just hoop a lot.
Jay, what is playing fast to you? I think every coach that I hear, I watch a lot of post-game interviews, and they all come up with that. We want to play fast. In your eyes, what does it mean?
Well, I think it means, how fast you get the ball down the court, whether you can create a mismatch because of the transition opportunity, or whether you can play before the defense can get set and they can try to scheme against your different plays. I think more teams are running conceptual offenses now rather than plays. We did that quite a bit last year. I think a lot of teams have copied that. But I think, remember years ago there was that book where the Phoenix Suns were 7 seconds or less. They tried to play that fast. That team, that year that they wrote the book about, would have been 25th in the NBA as far as pace of play. So the rest of the NBA has just gotten faster. The game has gotten faster. People are looking to push the ball down the court. Very few teams, walk the ball up the court. There are still a couple, but for the most part, everybody's trying to get the ball down the court as fast as they can, score within first 5-6 seconds if you can.
Well, you bring up that Phoenix Suns team, Jay, and obviously the huge part of that 7 seconds or less era was Steve Nash, who, of course, you coached the last time Canada was in an Olympics in the men's basketball tournament. What did it mean to you to see this new team, Canada, led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, make it to the Olympics for the first time since your team was there in 2000 in Sydney?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was extremely emotional to watch it and to see these guys. So many of them I had on the national team, and we had talked over and over, and I even brought most of the 2000 Olympians into the first banquet that we had, or the first dinner that we had, and we talked about what it was like to play in the Olympics, and the goal was to get these guys there. So for guys like, Dwight Powell and Kelly Olynyk, Melvin Edgem, guys that were part of the program. Even Shai. Shai was a young player in 2000 that we decided to take to the pre-Olympic tournament in the Philippines, and because we thought he was going to be good. We didn't know he was going to be this good, but he's been fantastic. But I just think that, even talking to like Kelly and some of the things that he said, we hope to inspire the next generation, and finally we get to have a group of athletes go back to the Olympics. Because for me as a player and for me as a coach, I would say that was the highlight, was being able to share that experience with other Canadian basketball players. And I'm just really, really excited for these guys to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like what you think needs to happen with the program between now and getting to Paris, where we know they're going. We know there's going to be great teams. The Americans are going to be there. There's a bunch of great European teams, South American teams. Yet there's so much NBA talent with the Canadian teams, and if they're healthy and they're going, Shai's going to be there. Jamal Murray's going to be there. Like, if you were coaching that team? What would you pinpoint first to say this is what we need to do in order for us to medal once we get there?
Well, I think number one, the talent has to play, number one, but it can't be all the best players. It's got to be guys that are going to go in there and accept roles. And I get to work with Jordy every day, and we are consistently talking about the Canadian players, and we share a lot of information about the past and what it's like now, and who his guys are. But he feels the same. You can have all the best talent. We've seen this over the years with some of the American teams. That's not going to do it. It's got to be a group that is cohesive and plays together. And if they play together and we have the right players, it's going to be an amazing event for everybody.
Hey, Jay, funny little quirky thing that happened in the NBA the other night I was going to ask you about. Victor Wembanyama, obviously the star rookie with the San Antonio Spurs, he checked himself into a game. Late in the game, got a dunk, and then Greg Popovich, obviously his coach down there in San Antonio, pulled him out immediately because he's on a minutes restriction. I'm not asking you to comment on the Spurs, but I was just curious. Like you were a star player for our national team, and in many other teams, you've coached a lot of star players. You ever see that happen?
No, I mean, the minutes restriction is, to me, even when I coached and we would have front office talks, it's so tough to evaluate because some games are super slow and there's 20 free throws in a 5-minute period. Are you going to count those 5 minutes as a minute restriction? Whereas you could play, 10 minutes and it be nonstop action. And then where does that do to the minutes restriction? So I really think it's got to be weighted a little bit. Minutes on the court, I think, are pretty tough to evaluate. What if there's 3 timeouts in those 10 minutes? Are you really fatiguing the body? So I don't know. I'm not a big guy on the minutes restriction, but I know that the sports sciences has taken a big step in many ways in pro sports now. So sometimes we have to listen to those doctors.
Well, what about a guy checking himself in? You ever check yourself in, Jay, when you were the best player on the team?
No. The only thing that I did that was kind of crazy one time was I was playing with Leo Routens, and we were playing in an exhibition tournament, and we had a bet who could shoot from further out, and he took a shot from way out, so I took one from further out, and then I saw that he was going to take one, and I guarded him so that he couldn't take it. We were on the same team. But it's the only time that I ever played defense, but it was to win a bet.
What would Jay Triano, the coach, think about watching Jay Triano and Leo Routens do that?
Hate your guts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, why not? Have fun. Leo could. I don't remember Leo being known as a guy that was shooting a lot of threes back in his day.
There was no three back then.
I guess not. You're right. Yeah, I guess it was a bit of a different game. Well, Jay, we wish you nothing but success, obviously, tomorrow night, the rest of the way. It's been a good start for you guys. Like you mentioned, Sabonis has been great. Darren Fox has been great. They're pursuing those all-star spots again this year. So good luck with that. Good luck tomorrow night. We'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
You got it. Jay Triano. Yeah, he and Leo, man, they were the rock stars back in the day.
Those are good teams, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody always likes to say, this is an unprecedented territory for Canada. You hear people say that. We've never done this before. Well, that team in the 80s, they were close to winning medals in the Olympics. They got they were in a bronze medal game in it'd and came close. And
it is wild. It'll be 24 years since the Olympics are every 4 years, so that is a bit deceptive.
Yeah.
But it'll be many, many Olympic games before Canada gets back there on the men's side. And yet they're going now. Paris will be here before. We're into 2024 now. It's coming up in like 6 months, 6.5 months.
That SGA, man, he's a stud. I think he's kind of sniffing on the outskirts of some MVP talk, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Absolutely. Because Oklahoma City's been so good. They're second in the West.
Yeah,
they're one of the great stories.
Record.
Yeah, they're one of the great stories, though, Doug. I mean, and he's a huge reason why. Like, the thing I love about that guy, I mean, not only is he Canada's Athlete of the Year, and we saw what he did in clutch moments for Canada to get them to the Paris Olympics and win that unprecedented World Cup bronze medal and beat the United States, but like this guy he's fearless, man. Down the stretch of NBA games, this guy is just cold-blooded.
Right.
And we haven't seen that before. Like
for a Canadian.
For a Canadian,
yes.
Like our best player to be like a closer.
Well, the interesting thing on that is that I would say Jamal Murray's got some of that DNA too.
Yeah,
and when they get to Paris, if they're both healthy, and you're trying to mock up plays coming out of a timeout late, like for me, it's going in the hands of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But Jamal Murray, he's won a title. Like he's played in the biggest games and hit some big shots.
That's a scary good backcourt, man.
That's the thing, man. You put the two of them out there playing big minutes late in a big game, that is tough to stop. But yeah, like for me, I think if the MVP was handed out tonight, Joel Embiid would win it.
Yes.
But then it's him, it's Luka, it's Halliburton's probably getting love, which he should. But Shai's been outstanding. All right, we'll come back with our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Look back on the Leaf game, the Raptor win last night. Check in with day one of the century down in Kapalua. Doogie's going to have homework this week. Rolf and his outros to commercial. We need a full montage on Monday, Doogie.
No, there's going to be some tonight. I want some for tomorrow's show.
Yes. We need to tape it. He doesn't know. There's no way he knows who Rolf is.
Dude, I don't care. I want to hear that is the highest point of Kawana-Manalea.
Morikawa with a one-shot lead. And then it just goes to cuts to black.
That's it, man. We need some tomorrow.
Yeah, it's raw. We should do our own. We should actually do our own and then play it and see how close we are.
Yes.
So Rolf throwing a commercial at Kapalua. The waves crashing down at Waukee Waukee.
You can get a Mai Tai down there that'll knock your socks off. Yeah. Let's go to break.
Let's go to break down at Kapalua. All right, OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Bruins money line versus Pittsburgh tonight. Under the number connects Blues tonight. Over the number Avalanche Stars tonight. So a bunch of games in the NHL. Today's best bet's powered by FanDuel. FanDuel's goal in the first 10 minutes is the most electric bet in hockey and can be included in a same-game parlay on any NHL game. Please play responsibly. 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. So Sweden and U.S. tomorrow, gold medal, World Juniors.
Who you got?
I think Sweden wins big. Or sorry, the USA wins
U.S.
big.
Yeah. I'll probably go with the Americans. I like them today. My Finns, though, they showed up.
Didn't get obliterated.
No one got obliterated. It was just a great hockey game.
Sweden and Finland?
Yeah.
Finland's going to get obliterated tomorrow.
Then he carved their D. They couldn't hold wine glasses. And
Yeah. It was a harsh criticism, but in the end, Craig was right that the Americans were going to win the game, and they did. And it's USA versus Sweden, the two best teams, I think, coming into the tournament. That's what you got tomorrow. All right?
Yeah.
And tomorrow, I think Toronto's down in New York, too, the PWHL, right? You got Toronto, their first game tomorrow, and we'll get into their first week in existence. Every team's played now. It's been a great start, sold-out buildings. Everything's been going well. So
I like the physicality. They're letting them kind of get after it a little bit.
It's been good hockey. Good response. Everyone's all good.
Can't get the merch, man. They're selling out of jerseys. It's great.
Yeah, you can't get tickets. People keep asking me. I'm like, they're all sold out. Like, as far as I know, they're sold. I'm trying to get tickets too. I'm trying to get my girls down there. So, this just came in actually. Auston Matthews is the Leafs All-Star representative, not William Nylander.
Okay,
that's interesting. I mean, Matthews
he's got 30 goals.
Yeah, he's got 30, and he's the bigger star, like league-wide.
Nylander will be added afterwards.
Yes. Question is, will Marner be there too?
Somebody will pull the pin, and Marner will get added. Trust me, I know how this plays out.
Yeah, you're right. Someone will pull the shoot, and they'll put him in. That's exactly what will happen. All right, boys. Dave, great seeing you. Thanks for this.
Great seeing you guys.
All right. Great stuff. We'll catch you tomorrow. Everyone behind the scenes, we appreciate your help. And everyone for tuning in today, radio, TV, podcast, web, we appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m. We'll chat then.